The insanity of war. Debunking common excuses for atrocities. If you say, but that's what they did in the Second World War. Did we worry about civilians back then? Did we wring our hands over who was a Nazi and who was civilian? If you want to use the Second World War as a justification for what you want to do today, be very careful what you wish for. Don't forget the Shah also occurred then too. If you want to revive the values of war from back then, you may unleash more than you expected. We are all subject to aggressive media campaigns to control our thoughts and decisions by the threat of calling us immoral for not believing as they believe. No, they are not above weaponizing emotions and threatening to place us into the terrorist or colonialist box to be righteously threatened and harmed. And both sides agree that violence is the only way. And they see their side as the only valid side, so they both want you to rubber stamp their ideas and decisions. I don't like the feeling of having no choice and being grabbed by the scruff of the neck and run forward to support someone else's beliefs. As if we are being press-ganged into submission. I don't exist as a convenient resource to echo their backward ideas. No choice means no freedom, and a lack of respect for our right to be free, and to make a decision free from bribery or duress is already insulting and a strong indication that they don't care about individual freedom, which means thanks, but no thanks. I'll think for myself and make up my own mind, based on what I believe to be most important. I don't care if I was the only one on earth who thinks this way. I'm not conforming to a popularity trend. Something else I keep hearing is the phrase, "That's what happens in war." That's what happens in war. Really? So who decides when to call it war, then? It's not okay if it's not called a war, but it is perfectly fine when we decide to name it a certain name, namely WOR. Or war, a sound like that. War, yes. If we name it war, then nothing is too shocking or terrible to do to one another. Isn't that exciting? It's like no laws or morality exists, and you can do anything at all no matter how grotesque or horrific. Wow! Isn't that the epitome of a childish sadistic wet dream? Psychopaths and narcissists, sadists and masochists too, would love to have no responsibility to abide by any code of decency, and obviously enough of them populate the offices of authority that they have a monopoly over these kinds of decisions. Does that mean I could walk right up to one of them, run them through with a sword and say, "It's okay, it's war. I've classified it as war, so it's all good." And then I walk quietly away having done my duty and war effort. Is that cool? You see, they throw this bullshit at us and expect us to mindlessly swallow it, but the moment you critically analyze it, it falls apart because it was never meant to be analyzed, just swallowed and believed without evidence. But belief without evidence is faith. They are expecting us to have faith in their bloodthirsty ways like a religious belief. Have they no shame at all? No, obviously not. They proved that the moment they began to slaughter civilians, families and little children. And babies too. And babies too. They have demonstrated in front of the world and to history that they are so incredibly backward and mentally unwell that they believe that killing people is something else besides murder. That it is a valid form of foreign relations. No, it's not. Sorry, but that's a big no. Killing people is just killing people. It's the sign of insanity. That's it. I doesn't kill ideas. Believers are driven underground and out of sight, and hatred and resentment is cultivated for future atrocities. It creates martyrs and heroes, which enliven and strengthen their myths and legends, which gives them strength and courage to return with vengeance. Killing is stupid. Calling it war so you won't be called a bloodthirsty mad killer is even worse. Of course, once they have sunk to such deep levels of utter depravity, nothing is off limits for them. They are deified by everyone, so it goes to their heads. They are just people like you and I, but we the people have a most unfortunate habit of wanting some form of big daddy over us to tell us what to do and to comfort us when we are sad. A big daddy goes all the way up to heaven too. It's all a cult anyway at this point, and we are treating our so-called leaders as gods, so we are idolizing ourselves by idolizing our country and its godlike powerful leaders, our betters. I'm going to vomit if I keep thinking about what they are doing. They believe they're sycophantic coward underlings, so their egos naturally inflate to gigantic proportions, and they actually lose touch with the earth, with the ground of truth, so they float away in their beautiful balloon of delusional madness. And from those stratospheric heights, the babbling insanity shouts of good versus evil, like we are mentally challenged children. What is good for the cheetah is evil for the antelope. It's subjective and relative. I want to end with some sayings from the holy books of different religions to understand what they teach about other people. Judaism, love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19:18, you shall not take vengeance, or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19:18. Islam, and not equal, are the good deed and the bad. Repel evil by the deed which is better, and thereupon the one whom between you and him is enmity will become as though he was a devoted friend. Quran 41:34, O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted. Quran 49:13, all people are my brothers and sisters. That freedom guy.